to the Dignity Dialogue with your host, Joe Kittinger.
We have a lot to talk about. So
yes, we do.
Dive into this and tell me more about Dignify and how you got started and what this all is.
Oh, yeah, you bet. Well, it started in the family, and it started with me meeting the love of my life, Danica. She was 20. I was 28. She was mature. I was immature. And we met somewhere in the middle. And it was kind of like the Jerry Maguire movie, right? Where you had that little boy who was super charming. Mm-hmm. Do you remember that movie?
Yes.
That's a movie, you guys, if you haven't seen it, like girls love it and guys love it because it's sports, but it's romantic and it's just kind of funny and it's endearing. Anyway, there's this charming little kid with the big glasses, and that was Alex when he was 3 years old. And that's when I met him. He was 3. And so Danica was a high school mom, met her at 20, got her into the bars. You know, she went to the bars, so my buddy owned the bar, and he goes, she's just so darn cute. I don't even think she's legal, but I'm letting her in my bar. So anyway, met the old-fashioned way. That was before Tinder.
Before any online
Remember
things,
that?
right?
We had the old-fashioned Tinder was a bar. Anyway, and we fall in love, and as Alex is growing, you get to that adolescent or that preteen stage, 9, 10, 11, 12, you become more self-conscious.
Yes,
right?
Self-aware. Mm-hmm.
So he's going through his stuff in life, which is different as a stepchild than it is a biological child. And every child is different. Even if you're all part of the same family, you have a different journey. We interview so many adults who say, well, I was the one of 5, and you talk to 2 different siblings, they're like totally different stories.
Right, because they each had a different upbringing, really.
Yeah, their perspective is different.
Uh-huh.
So I felt like I could connect better with him, and I wanted to do better. And all my expert friends, of course, would say, well, you can't be a real dad to a stepchild. Like, you're never going to be the real dad, right? And I'm like, oh, are you the expert at that? Or so when playing Monopoly, I had this epiphany that all those cards tell you how to treat the property. And they're all just a little different rules. You can't match Park Place with St. James. The most you're going to get is like $16. I think Park Place is 35, right? But if you match the two, you get this great abundance that comes out of it.
Right.
And through that aha moment, we created this thing called an About Me card, and it was all analog. You did it by hand. I met a scientist who came up with 56 traits that are very motivational. And as we developed and as I keep pushing this product and falling in love with it, we realized it was human dignity. He actually discovered dignity traits. And so before I just threw that out there and said, well, I don't want to just call it dignity for the sake of dignity. So I researched who is a dignity authority, and I came across Dr. Donna Hicks, who has her PhD from Wisconsin. I saw her in an article for Wisconsin Magazine.
Okay.
So
University of Wisconsin.
Yeah, University of Wisconsin. Okay. I called her and showed her this little invention. And I want to call it Dignify. But I don't want to call it dignity traits because that's a big thing unless you can confirm that that's not really what this is, right? Or it could be. If you say it could be or yes, then we're calling it Dignify because you're the authority. I need your opinion. And she goes, I can't tell you they're not. And she said, what's really special is you created, she said, dignity is emotional. And you've created a way for a human being to talk about their emotions in a logical way. And I give you a lot of credit for that. So now we have this tool, right? I'm in marketing. I'm in the business world. And my thought is, how do I get this to families?
Okay.
But I have to monetize it to be realistic.
Right.
So if I go to businesses, I could take one person who gets it and pay for it for all their people, right? Kind of like when you're raising kids, eat your vegetables. I don't want to eat my vegetables. Well, you're 3 years old. Take 3 bites of broccoli. You're 5 years old. You need to take 5 bites of broccoli, right? We're force feeding healthy habits with our children. I said you could force feed healthy habits with your employees, and when they realize this is meaningful, they're going to ask, can I get this for my spouse? Can I get this for my teenager? And that's exactly what happened.
Right, bring it from the workplace into the family, right?
Yes, and so Dignify is designed as a business culture system, just like you said. We have effective meetings. You do all the businessy things with it, and we've just launched a personal side to Dignify, where you can join your own private world and invite your children to be a part of the conversation.
Fantastic.
See, so you learn about it at work, and now you know about it, And the idea is to bring it into your family.
And then you can use that to build that strong foundation. And
Yes.
then they, in turn, will grow up and take it out into the workplace and into their own personal lives and professional lives.
We want dignity to be saturated in the world because the world is starving for it right now.
Yes,
I feel like we don't even know how to dignify someone anymore.
I wonder if I even do. So I'm excited to learn what this is all about.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell us about what you've encountered just in your world, all these wonderful conversations you've been having, right, with inspiring a better life. What conversations have you been having that stick out with you that revolve around this idea of dignity and living this wonderful life?
Well, people not feeling like they're heard, not feeling like they're understood, not feeling like that their things that are terribly important to them are not being felt by people close to them in their lives. And they need to be honored, they need to be respected, and they need to be understood.
That's a really good point, to be heard. I've also heard this be said, to be seen.
Yeah.
Do you see me?
Yeah.
Do you really see me? I think most marriages collapse because one spouse doesn't see the other, or they don't see each other, where they're coming from. Am I seen? That's a good point. That brings up a lot of thoughts in me just from obviously bringing this to the world. I've heard people say, I just took this survey and you're describing it to me, and it's the first time anyone has seen me
Oh, wow.
for who I really am.
You are really uncovering some things.
Yes, they're instead judging me based on how they're wired.
Right, and I think it's almost a default. I do that.
We all do it.
I judge. And it shouldn't have to be that way. And then you should be able to see someone and really almost like see their needs in their soul and really relate.
It'd be great, but the reality is it's up to you to teach people how to treat you. I'm not you. So the golden rule, treat others how you want to be treated, is awesome for the understanding of respect. But that doesn't work because I don't know how to treat you other than how I want to be treated, Theresa. How would I know how to treat you differently than how I want to be treated? I'm already doing that naturally.
Right.
So, for example, if I'm a bottom liner, and I'm like to my kids, sit up straight, pick your thing. I'm hard-natured, and I'm just going dun, 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 more military staunch, and that's how I'm wired because I love to be treated that way, right? That's how I was raised. I'm in football. I was in this, I was that, versus someone who's like wired to be more thoughtful, loves people, great sense of humor. They want you to have a little fun in this life. Like, why are you so serious? Right? And so you're like, can't you just lighten up? Actually, I can't.
Because they're missing each other, coming from different perspectives and different backgrounds.
I can't. So think of any great marriage. It'll tell you opposites attract. Right? That is so true. Like your compliment. It's really your compliment. Like, wow, you're so introverted and you're so extroverted. And all of a sudden you're just like, but I find you fascinating. Like you kind of balance me out, right?
Right.
That happens all the time. Try to work with a person like that. Drives you freaking nuts. But I'll spend the rest of my life with you. Right? I'll live with you. I'll spend the rest of my life. So the challenge is we're not being seen. So now think about raising children. Mama's girl, daddy's girl, boy, whatever, right? It's a mama's boy, that's a daddy's girl, right? All this kind of stuff.
Right.
Well, what's really happening is that these complements are coming together and there's natural bonding that's happening.
Correct.
Okay? Actually, those who are most alike usually don't gel.
They usually butt heads more so. Correct.
They usually butt heads or just don't quite see eye to eye. So now what happens? What happens is we have an inherent motivational drive called our dignity. And we're all different. So let's say there are 56 dignity traits in our system, and they're all wonderful. There's not one bad trait, okay? There's just bad people doing stupid things. But dignity is pure, and it shows the true you.
Okay.
So if let's say, I'll name a couple of them. Let's say my top 5, because your top 5 are like the pistons in your engine that allow you to do great things, let's say it's goal setter, persistent, strong-willed, competent, these kind of motivations, okay? Now I'm raising a child. Now that child, let's say, loves people, thoughtful, sincere at heart, all these soft-natured gifts, right? And they're what we call fun country. We have 4 countries, And that goes kind of 4 personalities. We call them like a country. Like, the culture of fun country is let's have a good time. Let's enjoy the moment.
Okay.
They get over things. And there's peace country. Let's get along. Let's collaborate, right? Let's work smarter, not harder. That's peace country. Control people. Let's just get this done. Let's come up with a plan. They're the goal setters. And there's perfect country who are sensitive. They're like the people on the symphony stage who are playing violin, who practice their whole life to become like flawless at something. That's perfect country. Totally process driven, right? So you've got this, let's say this parent who is this goal setter, persistent, and they have this soft-natured child, and they're saying, you need to set goals. You need to plan your way. What's your 5-year plan? Well, you're talking to someone who doesn't have goal setter.
It's like a different language.
And they're going, I don't know. Well, I was successful because I was a goal setter. Well, guess what? They're going to be successful by just winging it. They are experiential. They have to feel their way. They cannot plan their way. So if you're expecting me to set a 5-year goal, my whole life I'm going to feel like a failure in your eyes. And now there's this vibe of frustration between parent and child. You're not like me. And you feel the vibe, even if you don't say it. Well, I don't say that to them. We hear that from parents all the time. Well, I don't tell them they're lazy. Oh, they feel it.
Yeah, there's a lot of other ways to communicate besides verbal.
Yeah. For example, Danica and I share one thing. We're very social. I wouldn't say over-the-top extrovert, but we're social. We're social people. We can have a conversation with people and like to laugh and have fun. Alex was wired to be more serious and focused. So I remember in high school us saying, you should go to the dances. Go out there. Go to the sporting events. Go to this. Go to that. Well, he's more introverted. He goes, I'd rather work. So he was a great worker. I remember we worked at the grocery store and from 14 on. That's how I'll spend my time. Well, Danica was successful going to the dances, being social.
Right.
Well, that doesn't mean he's going to be successful that way.
Right.
It actually drain his battery.
Right, exactly. Yes. Recharging or not, depending on what, if you're an introvert, extrovert, and how you want to relate to people.
Yeah.
What recharges your battery.
So imagine, how many children do you have, Theresa?
5.
5. And how old are they? Now,
Oh boy, this is a quiz. 16, 19, 21, 23, 25.
Okay. So imagine if when raising those children, even now, it's never too late. I know you're a wonderful mother. And to know their driving force in life, how could you support them differently once you understand it?
What motivates them, what makes them tick.
And you have a dialogue around it, right? We talk about it. What are your do's and don'ts? And Dignified also says, what are your do's and don'ts? Like, we're going to live together, work together, be together. What are your do's and don'ts? And what you will find, Theresa, when you look at your do's and don'ts and you look them on paper and you ask yourself, I want to think of my best friend, not an intimate partner, just like a best friend, right? Do they support my do's and don'ts? Your answer, every time I ask this to anyone, they go, yes. Like if you have be enthusiastic, they're enthusiastic, right? Or they appreciate that you are, right? They appreciate that in you.
Right.
And then you look at someone who just annoys you, like they're draining when I'm with them. Do they violate your do's and don'ts? Yes, all of them, or these 2, right? Do they support your top 5 dignity traits? No, I come up with all these creative ideas because creatives are my top 5, and they cut them down. They say I'm not realistic. Of course I'm not going to be realistic. I'm creative.
Right.
I have to get it out. I'm always imagining. I'm always creating. Like, instead, if a child is like that, you can now draw out the creative, right? You can come up with creative ideas. I was just with a family, a client who said, I'm going on vacation with my children. Can you look at their snapshots? And these children are 18 and 22.
Okay.
And she's trying to describe these kids to me. And I looked at this one kid, and she has unique in her top 5, and she happened to have creative. Those are 250 of the 56 traits. And I said, ooh, where are you going? And I forget. It was somewhere in Florida. I went, shh. It was like a city I'd never really heard of. And I went, unique museums in Florida. And I don't remember what it was, but let's just say there is a show shoes museum. I don't know, like some unique, weird museum. And I said, you should go on a mystery trip and bring your daughter there. She will love it. But your other child won't like that. And I looked
Google
up something
for that
this.
one.
Yeah, this child would like to know what you're doing every day. She is organized in her top 5. She's more about structure and would like some of the structure, where this other child you have is more of surprise, delight, wing it. And so you could say, I'm bringing you on a mystery trip. She did that. She reported back to me that they bonded so much during those little trips. She goes, how did you know that so fast? I said, I just read these 8th grade level words: unique, creative, and then the other child, organized, competent. Just ask yourself, what would be fun for an organized person to do? What would be fun for an artistic person to do? Like, just ask yourself the question, and your brain will answer it. You know your child well enough to now put the pieces together.
God, what a great way to bond.
It is. And then to have conversation. I said, and
Have
on
conversations
vacation,
around it.
you have them. That's the time to do it.
Right.
Because they're stuck with you on vacation, right? They're not running all over. And now you're looking at these and you go, tell me about your top 5. You know, you have competent and it says you can rely on me. Tell me what you mean by that. And they're going to start discover who they are. What do I mean by that?
And they'll start to discover even more about themselves, especially
Yes.
at that age.
Yes.
Right. Well, I can't say just at that age, even as adults, even now.
Even now we don't know
my
ourselves.
Gosh, no, I'm learning that I don't.
Yes, exactly. And so with human dignity, dignity is to be worthy of honor and respect. That's the definition right out of the dictionary. And I just realized we defend our worthiness at all cost. And we don't have to. You know, think about that. You question something with a loved one. They go, why do you say that? They think you're like attacking them. And you're just like, I'm just asking a question.
Right.
Right? And sometimes we are. The tone is like, so how do you think that decision will be good? Right? There's that question versus, so how do you think this decision will be good? Like I'm trying to get on my head, right? And the child will always react, you just don't believe in me. You know, it's like,
Right, because the words are the words, but it's
Right?
behind the words, the message and the tonality and everything else that goes with it, right?
And their dignity was dinged, and that's not reality. You might be just asking the question.
Right.
But because of that bond where I want my parents to be so proud of me, the brain can easily go that way. So we have to open it up, the conversation. Teach me how to treat you.
I'm excited to dive into this
Yes,
more,
how
even
can
on
I
a personal
do it?
level,
Yes.
for me to go online and learn about the Dignify cards. And
Yes.
this is awesome.
I know, and it's all interconnected. So you can add people to your network, and you can just.
Oh, and you can actually see each other. So explain more about this.
Oh,
'cause
sure.
This is
So
such
this is a
neat
brand
concept.
new. So we've always been in business,
Okay.
right? That's how you have to fund it. And now we just released what we call internally Dignify 2.0. It's on a whole new platform. Think of it about like a LinkedIn of meaning.
Okay.
Okay, so you have like let's say LinkedIn,
Personal meaning.
yes, or Facebook. 'Cause it's
Okay.
more personal. Facebook, you've got 500 people that you really don't care about. Okay, there could be some friends on there, right? This is who do you really care about?
Okay.
How about 5? How about 5 people that you really want to get to know and know their heart? That's what we're trying to create. And then once we have a Dignify Nation, you can search to see if Teresa's in there. And I do like Theresa, and I'd like to know, and you are a friend. Do you have a Dignify? Yes. And I can give you a connection request. And now in my account, I can see you, and you can see me, and you can see how I'm wired.
So you can online share your
Yes.
traits with the people that are closest to you.
Yes, and we're going to have games on there eventually. We have a little Wheel of Dignity game where you can play with your child, and it pulls the data from their survey into this conversation.
Wow.
So now you can start to learn about each other's dignity without having to be a master of how to understand,
What a great concept.
right? So that's where we
Right.
got a patent on it. No one's ever done that. There's usually just there's a personality test, and then there's a profile.
Right.
Now I have to be a master at understanding the profile. Well, don't worry. On there you will have, what is dignity and how to read a snapshot. We'll give you that as far as a course that's on there that you can learn. But then if you just play the game, don't worry about it. Hit the button. Play the game with your child.
You're going to learn so much more about each other.
That's right.
Two-way
And right
street.
now, I would say, depending on your child, on average, 12 or older can do the snapshot.
Excellent.
If you have a child younger than that, you might have to interview them.
Because they may not have the words of vocabulary.
Yeah,
to
and there's
be able to do it.
definitions with everything. But we are creating an app for children as young as 5
Wonderful.
who can play the app and tell you where they are now. And just know everyone's cooking in the world of dignity. Versus personality, they say that's set by age 5 or 6.
Okay.
Your dignity is how you succeed in life. And typically what we found is it's pretty much cooked by 28, 29.
Okay, but even then, I'm
But
sure
even
it's
then,
never
you
done
see where they
cooking.
are now.
Yeah. Yep. Always
And
a
so
snapshot.
then you have them do it every year, every other year.
yeah.
and-
After a major life event or something else.
Yes, for sure. Major life events will change that, have you see the world differently. But it's how you succeed in life. And if you're true to your top 5 dignity traits, you feel fulfilled. if anyone is going through a midlife crisis, something I've discovered is this. A midlife crisis usually sounds like this. Is this what I should really be doing? You're laughing because you probably have the same question. Is this?
I'm kind of like maybe I'm in my midlife crisis now.
What can I really do to blankety blank? Well, what the question really is that people cannot answer themselves is, am I truly being honest with who I am? And am I applying me to what I'm doing now? And the problem is they don't know who they are.
I was going to say part of it is even understanding who you are.
Yes. So Dignify reveals the pistons in your engine that is motivation, your motivation, and your success that you do unconsciously and you're unaware. It's just your mastery. This is who you are. You're brilliant at these things. Dignify shows you these values. And again, there's 56 of them. They're all great. And they all give you superpower strength. So let's say competent. Someone is competent. Their superpower strength is they learn things really fast. They typically fix a sink. They can do this. They can research this. They can follow instructions. They just learn really fast. So if you're in a training program like in businesses, here's a training program for the competent, perfectionist, self-sufficient, all these types of quick motivations. Oh, and then you've got all these like people. They're going to need more time because they're not as tasky, but they're wonderful. Their superpower is communication.
Okay, right.
And so that's how you can create new training groups. Like, you're so aware of dignity. If someone has deep thinker in their top 5, don't expect a quick response from them. That's not their magic. Their magic is, think about what I'm about to say, and then let's talk later when you've been able to sort it through. That's dignifying.
So when a person wants to go online and do this with you, learn their dignity traits, is it like a quiz that they go through that you help them figure that out? Or they're not like listing them themselves, right?
Correct. So yes, at Dignify.com, you can take the survey. And it's a survey, it's not a quiz. And the reason I'm very particular about that word is because quiz implies a pass or a fail.
Okay.
A survey is your opinion.
Okay.
And that's all we want to know, how to treat you. You tell me how to treat you. So you're presented the 56 dignity traits, and you're just selecting if it's you or not you.
Okay.
Right? And it just brings you through, it takes about 15 minutes.
Okay.
Because dignity lives, Theresa, in the limbic system. That's what we discovered. The limbic system is the emotional part of the brain, where the cerebral cortex is our logical left, right hemisphere.
Correct.
In our cerebral cortex is where language is housed. So if you're going to learn German or French or English or any language, you're learning, anything you learn is through your cerebral cortex. Long-term memory is here, short-term memory. But the limbic system is where emotions reside. Fear, anger, happiness, joy, all of them are there. And it does not process language, okay? And that's where dignity resides, because dignity is emotional. For example, someone goes, how is organized emotional? I said, let me go into your desk and move things around, and you tell me if you get mad or not.
Tell me how that makes you feel.
Right? I feel great when my closet's organized. Right? I feel threatened when my closet's organized because I'm a clutter freak. You know what I mean? Like, it's different, but it's emotional. And that's where motivation and engagement reside, is in the limbic system. Look at psychology. That's what they tell you. So even in work, I tell businesses, when you're trying to engage or motivate employees, you're scratching the wrong itch. You're coming with logical things, carrots, motivation like this. That's not how the human condition is motivated. They're motivated emotionally. So how do I motivate a person? I need to have an emotional system in place where I can talk about these drivers, these emotions. I can put people in the right seat on the bus based on them. I can have a dialogue about them with people instead of sitting back trying to figure them out.
Right.
Let them teach you how they're wired and let them discover themselves, which is super cool if you're a leader, because now you're helping them become a better person. And if you better the person, I always believe you will better their roles. So you'll better them at work, you'll better them as a parent, you'll better them as a spouse or whatever it is.
Absolutely.
You will better the roles if you better the person, which is a completely different concept in the world of business. So when we go in and do leadership development, coaching, we do all these things with companies, we're just trying to better the people, not just become a better leader.
Right. Nope. Start from the foundations.
Yeah. Start with who you are. Let's discover who you are.
It's just such a great concept. And it sounds so like, why didn't anybody think of this before?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's just perfect. Because I like it that you're starting off with the person at their, like way inside. This is their heart. This is how they feel about themselves. And then helping them discover what it is to help them even understand themselves better. Trickles down into relationships, parents, as a your marriage or your partner, and then again to work. So it is every aspect of your life. But once you understand yourself, and then you also can understand the people that are closest to you. Now you can
why they behave the way they do.
Right.
Yeah. So
and work
Dignify
together.
does why, what, and how. Why a person behaves the way they do, what motivates them, and how to create a win-win relationship with them.
So that is also on your site.
That is what Dignify does.
Okay.
That is on a personal.
Well, tell me more about this, because this is a whole
Sure.
other layer.
Oh yeah, it's so cool.
Great.
So the challenge I ran into when I was in the process of inventing this, it wasn't to invent something; it was to come up with a tool to understand Alex. So I researched the business world because they use things like Strength Finders and DISC and Myers-Briggs, right? So I interviewed people who loved them. Right? If you loved Myers-Briggs, I'd go, oh, cool. Can you tell me about it? And why do you love it? If you love DISC, why? Why do you love it? So I was at this leader's office, and she, particularly this leader, loved Myers-Briggs, which there's no argument that any of these surveys are accurate. Okay, they're all accurate. There's no doubt. It's all been vetted and so forth. So I wasn't saying, is this accurate? I trust that it is, or you won't use it. But she had a glass window behind her, and you saw all these cubicles. And on the cubicles are flags. And it's like Mark and Jenny and Carlos, right? You saw their name out their little cubicle. And I said, I am looking for a tool to help me treat someone with dignity and respect. I didn't even use the word dignity at that moment because I didn't discover it yet. But with respect, or know how to communicate with someone in 30 seconds or less. Okay. Do you have that? She goes, oh. I go, and I understand you use Myers-Briggs. Well, she goes, oh, we love Myers-Briggs. She goes into why she loves it. I said, great. So, and then I look out and I see a flag, Mike. So I said, so how do you treat Mike? How does Mike want to be treated? And she goes, is he a JFY? Is he an FJE? I forget the terms.
Yeah, right,
I'm not an
letters.
expert.
Yep.
But she pulls out a file that is super thick, at least 40, 50 pages, on his profile results.
Okay.
And I went, okay, stop.
That's a lot right there. How do you muddle through?
Are you saying you can't tell me in 30 seconds or less how to treat Mike? Yeah. And she goes, no. I'm like, okay, then I know that's not my tool. Right. And I kept going and kept going. So once the tool wasn't created, then I realized, okay, I have this awesome tool. It's great information. People love it, but then they go back to their busy life.
Right.
Right? So when you ask the why, what, and how of every person, that's what it reveals. Why they behave the way they do, what motivates them, and how to create win-win relationship with them. We did that through an interaction. You hit buttons in the business side. And meaning you hit introduction. And it goes into this automated experience on introducing you to me.
Okay.
So I'll say, Joe, let's say yours is loves people. You have inspirational for sure. You wouldn't have this, right? So it says, I see your top 5 and they're throbbing in front of my face. And I hit inspirational. And it says, Joe, literally 8th grade. Joe asked Theresa what she means by inspirational. And let's say you say, I want to impact your life. That's how you describe it. And I'll go, what do you mean by that? And you'd be like, well, I guess, and I can take notes on it. Yeah. And then I'll say, how do you use that at work? Like in the work version. How do you use that at work?
Okay.
Well, I guess I use it to get people on board with ideas. Okay, good. And I go through all your 5 like that. Okay. And at the very end, it asks me, Theresa, you have these top 5 dignity traits. Ask Theresa, which one of these is sometimes misunderstood? Okay.
And I'll have stories.
And you'll have stories. Now let's use inspirational. I hear this with inspirational a lot. Matter of fact, I just heard it at 8 a.m. or 7 a.m. when I met with someone who had inspirational, and we did this example. I said, how are you? He goes, he chose inspirational as misinterpreted. Okay. He goes, sometimes I come across as showy and I have the story to tell and share with you, and some people don't want to hear it. So it can come across as arrogant, I guess, and I don't mean it to. It triggers, and I have a story to share with you, and they're like, oh, God, here comes another story, right?
Right, no, so I can understand.
That's misinterpreted.
Right.
That's a really cool thing to talk about. That's introducing vulnerability in a safe space. So we have to be able to get vulnerable with each other to bond relationships. I have to be able to be real with you and talk to you.
And to feel like you're in a safe space to be able to do so.
And that's what Dignify does. It asks questions. We also have a check-in, that you check in with their dignity and their do's and don'ts. How am I doing with you? Where do I do well? Where could I improve? That's all I want to know, right? And the person responds, and you jot down your notes. Got it. Like Alex told me he had recognized my efforts when he was 14. Okay. And I said, how would you rate me on 1 to 5? That's how I asked him the question.
Okay.
And he goes, I'll give you like and I'm thinking, I'm going to get a 10. He goes, I'll give you like a 3. Now, you have to understand, I grew up with very positive parents, and you probably met them.
Yes.
Because Theresa and I went to college together.
And you were a roommate with my favorite brother.
He's my best, don't
See,
say that.
I can't say that. I have 9 brothers. Pick a favorite.
Right.
Closest in age. My closest in age brother.
Yes. So Borch, he's my best buddy in college and still a close friend. So I asked him to rank me. I grew up with very positive parents who always appreciated everything I did and almost over applauded me. Nice job cutting the lawn. Best lawn I've ever seen. Every time I mowed the lawn, my dad would come home from work. Best lawn I've ever seen, right? Well, Alex wasn't wired that way. So when I would say, good job, buddy, he'd be like, ugh.
Right. It was almost a negative.
Yes, he took it as condescending.
Yes,
He took it as insincere because his value at that moment in his life was serious and goal setter. Mm-hmm. Right? And so when you watch me skateboard, I want you to be serious and coach me. Tell me where I can get better. Tell me where I'm doing good. Where I'm just like, looks great to me.
So you and I are so similar.
Right?
Good
It's
job.
enthusiastic.
That's awesome.
But when you have a wired kid who's wired to be serious, now I have to change my behavior. It doesn't mean I'm changing who I am. I'm not going to change who I am. However, I can change my behavior. I can reflect and look at that technique and take a deeper look, knowing that he values that. I remember even going to Universal Studios knowing this about him. So now that's like the teenage mecca of the world, right? Roller coasters, and he loved all that. I don't love roller coasters, but I can go on them. So I participated. I went on the roller coasters. One is called The Mummy. Okay, The Mummy is based on the movie The Mummy and has fire and brimstone. And you get off, and the characters, because it's movie themed, the workers have a pith helmet on, and they're dressed like the characters in The Mummy. Not as a mummy, but as these people with pith helmets and are out in the wherever the mummy is, Egypt or somewhere. And they, after you get off the ride, they said to me, and we are the only ones on the ride. Only ones on the ride, okay? They go, did you survive the ride? Right? Because they're actors.
Yes.
Right? And I'm like, I thought we were going to die. And he looks at me and goes, shut up. I'm like, there's no one else on this ride. He's like, be quiet. You know, like, you're embarrassing me.
Right.
Right? And it's just the actor
Right.
who was young. You know, she's probably like 20 years old, and he's 14 or 15 at the time. And I went, and I left in that moment thinking, why can't you lighten up? And then I thought, stop the judgment. Know where he's at. This isn't about you, Joe.
Right.
No, you want a beautiful relationship with him. You want to have a great time. You're going to have serious fun. So then we go on the Hulk, which is a crazy roller coaster. I'll never go on it again because it jars your spine, and I just don't want my spine jarred anymore. But anyway, you get dizzy. And afterwards, I just went, oh, dude, that was crazy. And he goes, oh, yeah, that was wild. I'm like, do you want to just like get some lemonade, sit and chill and just talk for a while so our heads can get cleared? He's like, yeah, that'd be great.
See,
and he told me about everything going on in 8th grade or freshman year or whatever he was at the time. And I just met him where he's at. Yeah. See, if we meet people where they're at, we just change our behavior because we have so much information.
Say that again.
If you meet people where they're at by changing your behavior, not who you are, to honor them. If I'm one-on-one, right. If I know he's built to be serious, doesn't mean he can't have fun, but he's going to have serious fun. Mm-hmm. He's a deep thinker. He wants to have deep conversations, not shallow, right? He wants to have one-on-one deep conversations. He'd rather be one-on-one than in a group. You can't have a deep conversation with a group of people. Right. I'm talking about at that time. Right. You know, everyone evolves. So even at work, or, you know, if I know you're creative and I now can start looking for creative things where before that might annoy me, right? Oh, they're changing it. Oh my gosh, you just made the whole mess over here. But you're really trying to create something. Mm-hmm. Well, instead of being, you're going to clean up that mess, right? I can say, what are you creating? Mm-hmm. Like, I could take fascination in it. I would just change my behavior. I'm not changing who I am, but I know what to look for to honor you. I
am loving this. And I just keep thinking personal relationships. And like you had said earlier, that will then affect how you integrate with everyone, professionally, personally, everyone.
is blowing people away, and it's helping them shut down their stress.
Stress. Okay, let's talk about stress.
Stress is the biggest thing that keeps us from seeing someone. I'm convinced of it.
I don't understand. You have to help me.
Sure.
Help me understand what you mean by that.
Okay, let's talk about personal relationships.
Because I think of stress, I'm like, okay, I got so much going on, new job, new house, new everything. How does that
Okay.
relate?
Did you ever go home when you had stress, new house, new home, new everything, to your kids, and like they're like, hello? Hi, Mom. Where are you?
Yeah. I am
Right?
off, gone.
Especially
I won't remember our conversations. Yes.
Especially men, this happens to if they have this they were raised to be the breadwinners of the house, which many of us were.
Right.
My mother was a homemaker, so you just take these programs on. These are social rules that you've put on yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, right or wrong, those are the social rules how I was raised. So those are my rules, right? Well, I have to build a company, and what if the clients don't sign up, and what if this? So I'm home, and they're like, Dad, you want to play ball? Maybe later, or I'm throwing a ball and I'm a zombie because my brain isn't there. My mind isn't with them. Why? Because of my stress.
That's me at this moment. Yes.
Stress.
I totally understand and relate to that. Okay.
Right? And so what causes stress? I found what causes stress.
Well, please.
Everyone wants the one thing, right? Okay. We don't believe we're worthy. So we're so busy not trusting ourselves.
Okay.
That we'll figure it out. And we have this negative voice in our head that keeps telling us we suck. And it pops up. We just call it the negative voice. Like it comes up at opportune moments where, how am I going to get this podcast to take off? No one will listen to this. Right? I'm creating Dignify. I don't have a PhD. You're not going to be able to create this. You don't have a PhD. These are voices I heard.
Okay.
No one will take you seriously. You have to have Dr. Joe Kittinger in order for them to take you seriously. All right? Now, knowing what I know, I said, no, the truth will reign supreme. Either people like it or they don't. The consumer will decide.
Right.
Either I make sense to you
Which
or
is
I
the
don't,
truth, right.
which is the truth.
Right.
To live in reality and not the fiction of our fears, because the fiction of our fears is where fear resides. And we hear the fiction through that negative voice.
And those are the stories we keep telling ourselves.
Yes. Those are the stories we tell ourselves. And so we talk about leadership development and what we do professionally, and we're developing a thoughts program for the general user, right? That people can control their thoughts before they turn into mental monsters. We've been sharing this with the world on a corporate level for about 8 years now. We perfected it. We've created a journey that people say is the most special, most unique journey, which makes me tingle because I have unique in my top 5, right? I don't want to be average. I want to be different. But presenting stress in such a way that you can get your arms around it and make it tangible. Okay. That's what I thought was missing, because stress to me was this ethereal, fearful, like energy.
Pressure or something, but what is it?
But if we can make that stress look just like this cup to you in your mind, you can go, oh,
I got this.
I'm not going to drink that coffee anymore. I can actually physically put that down now and walk away. And we have been told after even 3 sessions or 2 sessions, my stress is down 50%.
You keep sharing more things at each level. I'm like, oh my God, that's so awesome.
Because it's all dignity, right? I'm like, what's getting in the way of you stepping into your dignity, into your true self? What is holding you back from these top 5 beautiful things being alive every day? Shame, guilt, things I was taught as a kid, society, my fears. It's your negative voice.
Dang stories you keep
You're
telling
listening to this negative voice. Yeah. Why are you listening to your negative voice? And how can I tell if it's a negative voice? Because it's condescending. It's not helpful. How can I tell if it's intuition? It's logical. And it feels right. That's intuition. If it feels ugly, that's your negative voice. That's how you tell the difference.
How do you figure out what your stresses are or how to mitigate them?
How do I know what my stressors are? Well,
or like you were saying, if you can figure out, if you can make it this tangible thing, how do you go about doing that?
We haven't released that yet. That's not an easy deal, but there's a process to doing it.
Okay.
All right? So that's the process we walk people through, but it's a logical process.
Okay.
It can't be like, boom, here it is, right?
Right.
Because you go, that's weird.
It's not like taking a 5-minute quiz online. There's
Right,
so
it's not-
many layers. And so
yeah,
much
there's
depth to it.
layers.
Yeah.
But one thing you can start with is we do a 4 minds exercise. I mean, if you're into self-discovery and you want to discover some of these things you have, consider yourself, and it's a metaphor, these 4 minds, right? So the first mind is the inner child mind, and that's fear. So you can take your piece of paper, write down columns, and go fear. And write down 3 to 4 things you fear. It could be snakes. It could be heights. It could be failure. These are popular ones. Failure, health. That's a popular one. Like it's sick or something. Right. Then the next one is the authority mind, the parent mind. That's the judgment. What are judgment thoughts? Typical ones I hear. Not good enough. People are smarter than me. They're going to catch on to me that I'm not, blah, blah, blah. You know, these kinds of thoughts that pop in your head. So that's the judgment mind. And then the next mind is the attack, which is the negative voice. The negative voice takes the fear and it takes the judgment and it creates sentences. And that's usually the clearest thing to remember because these are the thoughts that literally pop into your head, right? But that's the source code it's taking it from.
Okay.
Your fears and your judgments, and now there's sentences. So I might be pitching an idea, and maybe in a sales, let's say it's sales, and I'm pitching an idea, and my fear mind might go, boy, if this doesn't go through, you're screwed. Right? Like you are going to go under if this, but you better do this, you better, right? So that's fear of failure, could be money as a fear,
ones, right?
Loss, right? And so that's how you make the connection. But then the fourth mind, which is the most powerful, is the conscious mind, because those are subconscious minds. They're there, but you just don't realize it until you really explore them. Then you can see it.
Okay.
And that's you. Who do you say you are? And I challenge people to write down 24 adjectives or short statements that say who you are, not the negative. If it says I'm nervous, that's not you. That's over here. Nervousness is caused by this fear and anxiety. So don't put I'm nervous, because that's not the real you. Now, some people take their Dignify snapshot. I'll give you at least 5 of them. I'm competent. I'm organized. I'm creative, right? These kind of things. But also, I'm a good friend. I'm reliable. And you just write 24 things down. Now, look, you're going to have 2 or 3 on these columns. 3, 6, 9. You got 24 of who you say you are. It's a simple, logical thing to go, well, why don't I just do this?
Right.
I'm just going to do me now, right?
Right.
It's not that easy because now you've got to walk the journey of getting after you.
And get the stories out of your head.
Yeah.
And that voice out of your head.
Yeah. Now, in our journey, we ask people, are you science-based, faith-based, or both? Mm-hmm. Because what I found is we did all this science to show the evidence of where this fear comes from. And so that's why I'm saying I have to share the whole story, my evidence as to why what I believe is true.
Okay. That makes sense.
So that person then can decide, does that feel right for you after all this evidence? Mm-hmm. I used to just show the science, and then I would have people like go, that's a God thing. That's a God thing. And I would go, oh, I'm losing them. Okay, so then I started to study Christian-based, because that's my background, faith-based, biblical stuff. Most of my clients have come from that kind of walk. And I've even had some folks, Islam and folks from India who had different religions. They go, we fundamentally say the same thing. It's surrender, it's forgiveness. Mm-hmm. It's fundamentally the same.
Right.
So it's not a far stretch for you to talk about Christian values and me assessing it to my own. But when I started to bring tie-ins of how faith and religion coincide, that's when the folks who were faith-based, or even both, were like, oh my God, I get it.
Light bulb went on.
I get it. And so we're actually designing that right now to say, hey, if you're faith-based, listen to the science, because I still want you to see it. But it's really fascinating when you see how faith comes into it.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I'll give you one example just to kind of illustrate it. So in the 1950s, a theory came out about how the universe began. And what do we call that?
Big Bang Theory?
The Big Bang,
right.
And then they made a sitcom on it. Big Bang Theory. Well, what that says, it's quantum physics, and that quantum physics came out in 1918. Quantum mechanics, that's the newest of the sciences. But it's the study of energy. That's what it is, the study of energy. So how do we know there was this Big Bang? Well, today they have instruments that show a radioactive wave, like if you took a big boulder in a lake and you'd see the ripples come out from a central boom, right? Well, that's what an explosion does. It creates waves of energy coming from a central point. Well, right now they actually can see there's these waves still going out. They look at the circumference of them, and that's how they know if they're sending a satellite to the center of the universe.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Okay, that's just the science of a circumference of a circle going in the middle. So they know that. They know because I used to say, how do they know they're sending the satellite in the right direction? Like, how do they know that? Well, I researched it. That's how they know. Now, what science says is that there was this void called antimatter, and then matter was introduced to it. And antimatter and matter are opposites. And the law of opposites says you can't have both in one place at the same time. Like, I can't be angry and glad in the same moment. Those are opposites, right?
Right.
But I can jump real quick, okay? So that's the law of opposites. Excuse me. And so they said, we don't know how or where or when exactly. But matter somehow was introduced to the void, and it caused a massive explosion, replacing all the antimatter with matter. I don't know how it started, though. Go to Genesis 1, and the Lord said, let there be light. And I found, oh my gosh, it's almost like faith-based teachings fill in the void for science and science to faith.
They do. Absolutely overlap.
They overlap. And I just find connecting those two things just a fascinating intellectual exercise, in and of itself, but also for faith-based people, it strengthens their faith, that everything is there for a reason. And so we build it that way. That's just one comparison, but it's a simple one to wrap your head around. And we have lots of examples where these two things come together. And so now a faith-based person can connect the dots, grow their faith, and be like, oh, right.
Now that all fits in the puzzle.
Right.
Everything makes sense.
That makes sense.
Right.
To help you reduce your stress. Right. Because if we reduce the stress and we uncloud that fiction that's getting in your way and show you it's fiction, you can live in the real world. You know your dignity traits. Trust those. Are you living those every day? Read them every day. Are you bringing them every day? Because if you're not, you're going to feel hollow, right?
Right.
In what you do. I don't care if you're a construction worker. I don't care if you're a mom. I don't care. Whatever you're doing now. Doesn't matter. Are you bringing them into what you're doing now? You will be fulfilled. If you don't, you will be an emotional wreck. And I'll give you one example of that from my own experience. I started J. Kittinger Advertising in 2002. As any solo entrepreneur at the time, Danica helped me with billing, right? And she still is the CFO to this day. So I had that help. But other than that, I had to come up with the media. I had to brainstorm with the client, which I loved. I had to do the creative, which I loved. But then I had to write it. I had to organize it. I had to come up with numbers to make sure that everything's tracked right. I had to do all the busy, tasky work as a solo entrepreneur.
Yes.
Once Dignify came into my life, I realized why during that first year I was in the hospital twice. I was in the hospital thinking I was having a heart attack at 33.
Oh my gosh. A little bit of stress.
And my doctor said, you're having an anxiety attack. Well, in the Dignify system, when you do your survey, there are 5 categories that every one of those traits falls into one of them.
Okay.
It's either people. So I had lots of people. I love people. Task. Creative. I had a lot of creative. Leading. I had a lot of leadership traits. And showman. Well, I used to perform, so I have showman traits, but I had not one task motivation. Not one that fell onto my snapshot, which then
that's
made me,
what you were struggling through.
That's why I was emotionally wrecked.
Yes.
Until I hired a woman named Lisa, I said, you saved my life. And this was before even Dignify came out. I'm like, you saved my life. I knew I struggled with tasks. Yeah. She'd go, I'll handle that. Let me do that. You don't even do that well. I'll take care of that. That meeting's all task meetings. Don't go to that meeting
anymore. And just
anymore.
Took all of that burden off of your shoulders.
Wow.
And then it allowed all the other parts to flourish.
Yes. Yeah. And so that, if you're able, you could be good at numbers, but hate the task of numbers.
Okay.
You'd be good at something, but hate doing it every day.
Yeah.
You have to be real with yourself. That's where midlife crisis comes in. That's where stress comes in. When we plant these programs that we're not satisfied with our children, it's because we are unconsciously transitioning them into how we do things. And we look at them and go, that's weird. Why you do it that way? We might not be saying it. We say it all the time. Well, I don't tell them that. Oh, they feel it. You feel the vibe. Mm-hmm. Yep. This one's a favorite, blah, blah, blah. But now we can see them for who they are.
Yeah.
And just meet them where they're at. And that's our mission, is to bring dignity into families, dignity into the world.
And that's how you help foster those relationships and help them grow as individuals as well.
Yes.
Whether it's relationships at home or at work.
Everyone will be successful their way. So look at their window, look through their lens, and help them through their lens.
Yes.
Right?
I cannot wait to.
It's not helpful.
Yeah, but I can't wait to get online and actually go through this and learn and apply it to my own life.
Our mission, Theresa, is to bring dignity to the world, and how we're doing that is to meet wonderful folks like you, and you and I have met a long time ago. But I'm so grateful that you're bringing dignity into your world, your listeners, right? And if they can bring dignity into their world and dignity into their world.
The ripple effect.
It's the ripple effect, or the butterfly effect, I've heard it called too, right? We just need to get into these little worlds so that the consciousness can start growing to go, wow, there is a different way to communicate.
Yes.
There's a better way to do this. And so I'm very grateful and thankful for you thinking of me to spread this message to your audience.
And I'm very excited to dive into it more and apply it to my own life. Because, yes, I can for sure use it.
So
can you tell us how to find you online so that the listeners can dive in and then start their own journey?
Right. You go to dignify.com and then take the survey. It's really simple.
D-I-G, right? D-I-G-N-I-F-Y.
Yes. Okay. Dignify.com. And you know what I'll do?
I'll link this in the show notes too.
Please do that. The survey is $19.99. Why don't we give them half off? I'll give you a code.
Okay.
That you can share with them.
That sounds great.
So click down below. You'll see the code that she sends you, and we'll give you half off. How about that? $10 to understand your dignity.
That's fantastic. It's priceless. And
well, we want to spread it, and we want to say thank you to you and to the folks who go, you know what, I'm going to give this a shot.
Yes.
And help us spread it.
Please do.
We'd be so grateful.
Great.
Awesome.
Are there any other social media or anything that people can find you to learn more about Joe Kittinger and the business? Sure.
You can look up Dignify. You'll find us on LinkedIn. You'll find us on all the social media networks.
Okay.
It'll be a quick search, and certainly Joe Kittinger, my name, you can find me as well out there in the world of the internet. So,
and I'll spell that for you in the show notes too.
Yeah, but dignify.com is the heart and soul of where you'll find us.
Excellent. So if you could leave our listeners with some nugget, something to encourage them or inspire them on their own journey of self-awareness, self-growth, something to, each one of them to make themselves a better human being, right? What would that be?
All right. I'm going to look at you now. You often hear, I want to become the best version of me. Mm-hmm. And I want to plant this thought. You already are. You already are the best version of you. You're just not peeling back the layers of self-doubt. It's already there. There's nothing to be. You're going to become you, the real you. It's already there. So this best version of people, I get frustrated with that statement because you already are perfect. And you already are excellent at what you do. You just have to step into it. And sometimes when I go out on stage to talk about some of the crazy things I talk about, I have to take a big leap forward. Like physically, I take a big step and my left leg goes out and I just fall on the stage as if I'm just going to step into me. And it's okay if some people don't identify with my belief or what I'm trying to share. It's not my job to convince you. It's my job to share with you a different way and to see if it feels better for you. And there is definitely a different way. So you're already perfect. Let's discover your dignity, and you'll see it for yourself.
Eloquent, beautiful, spot on. Yeah. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule, especially with the new launch and everything that you have going on, to share with our audience and to share with me.
Well, you bet. It's a privilege. Great to see you again. And you're going to come and visit with boards and all that stuff. You need to start coming to our get-togethers.
Absolutely. I'm in.
All right. Thanks, Theresa.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Joe.
Have a great day.
This has been the Dignity Dialogue with Joe Kittinger. Talk at you later.